Hi everyone and welcome to my thank card. It's Friday. Today we'll be making this card, and I'll be showing you is how to make these little rosettes in the middle. And they're really easy to use. It's just using two punches to get those beautiful rosettes. Okay, so let's get started. Now we're going to start off with a crumb cake cardstock, which you've probably known previously. It's been called Craft. So we're going to start off with that as the base. We've got some Naturals Ivory cardstock. Now I'll be using a old designer series paper, and it's got River Rock as the design. It's from the Timeless type, and you can see there that's the paper. So pretty much, sorry about me going in and out, I'm adjusting the lens as I speak. Okay, so I'm going to just adhere this down. So using your snail and using this designer series paper, I'm going to this should fit flush. I don't want to leave any space. And that's going to go down on that. As you can see, I've got some ink on it, but you don't even know it's there. So this is going to go that way. Okay, so that's going to be the base. I'm going to run using River Rock cardstock. I've punched out with my 2.5 inch circle punch, and I'm going to put this through the Big Shot. And in the embossing folder I'll be using is the Lacy Brocade. I'm not too sure how you say it, but that's how I've said it. So this is what it looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put snail on the deboss side, and I'm going to go around the circle as much as I can around the edges. Okay, and then I've got my crumb cake seam binding ribbon, and all I'm going to do is pleat it along. So I'm just folding as I go, then using the snail that I've put down to adhere the pleat across. It's all very rough pleating. I'm not being precise. I'm just pleating along. Nothing too fancy. Doesn't have to be perfect. I've got this as my spray mat because pretty much I can wipe it down straight away. And I'm just going to pretty much go heavy on spraying this because I want the real gold shimmer to shine on my project. So I'm going to just pretty much put that aside as well, and continue on with my card. So you want to see how those little rosettes were made. Now, to make these little rosettes, I've just used my 3/4 inch circle and a boho blossom punch. Now, I've just punched out the little babby one, and I'm going to punch out this one with the old olive cardstock. So, just using that top one, going to punch that out. Alright, now wanted to grab my paper snips and cut, like I have done before in my previous cards, a little rosette. And to do that, you just pretty much, I'll zoom in, pretty much you can just snip around in a circular spiral motion. Doesn't have to be perfect at all, and you just take it like that. So nothing fancy. Then what you do is you roll the outside of the circle, and you just keep rolling that in, rolling it in, Sorry, my fingers are in the road. It's because it's a tiny little circle. I'll try and stay focused and in the camera. So you just keep rolling it, rolling it. And then what I did is I used my glue dots to adhere that down. So I got one glue dot first, and I'm going to stick that on the base of this cardstock to stick down a little rosette like that. Okay, and then I just grabbed a glue dot again and stuck it down to the other pink punch to make it look like a little base. And then I got a glue dot again that I picked up and I stuck it onto the old olive. And that's how I've made those little rosettes. Now I also spritz my rosettes. So grabbing my mat and getting back into focus, I just spritzed all three of them. So I'll go ahead and make another two, spritz them all and get them ready for the card. Okay, so while my little bits and pieces are drying, this is still a tiny little bit damp. I'm just going to set that aside. Now I'm going to grab my bow and my vintage brads and just tie a knot, a little bow as well. Now, nothing fancy, and the middle doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to stick a brad in it. So I want to concentrate more on the bow itself and to zhuzh up the little loops. Okay, so grabbing my vintage brads, which I absolutely adore my vintage brads. I use them all the time. I think I've gone through 2 packs already. Now I'm going to grab the smallest one, which is like a little round one. They're all round, but yeah, they're just so beautiful, these brads. Oh, they're just amazing. Alright, so just wrapping it around that. Now, because it's protruding out, what I tend to do is, I'll focus on what I'm showing you, is that I tend to grab it and then also loop it around, but also poke it to the side. So that one I've poked to one side. I don't know if you can really see that. I've poked out, and then this one I'll do the same. I'll bend it so it bends to the side like that, but it holds in everything I need to hold in like that, all that bow together. Alright, so that's that bow. Now, because I sprayed this and I got spritz on the seam binding ribbon, I'm going to spritz that as well. Alright, so for this card I used a happy retirement stamp set because I've got a lady from my new job that I've got who's retiring this month. So what I'm going to do is I don't need 2 retiring stamp sets, so I'm going to bring out this itty bitty banners and I'm going to do the thank you. And so I'm going to mount that up, and then I'm going to actually stamp that with soft suede ink. So grabbing my soft suede ink and my Naturals Ivory cardstock, just making sure that's all inked up properly, and just stamping the thank you. Now this stamp set coordinates with the Framelits Bitty banners, so this is the first time I'm using it. And it coordinates with this one here. Now it cuts on the inside, so where you see is where it actually cuts along the inside, and that's a handy tip to know, especially when you're placing it over your stamped image. Grab a post-it note and I'm going to just stick it directly on top so it doesn't move in big shots. Sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't, so I'm just going to play it safe. Okay, so just taking the post-it note holder off and pushing that through. Isn't that just cute? Alright, so what I'm going to do is grab my finger dobber and some, actually I'm going to use crumb cake ink, but there's some crumb cake ink still on that. So I'm just going to slightly, actually if there's more soft suede ink on that, and you can tell that's a lot darker than the crumb cake. So just, isn't that just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful? Alright, so you can pretty much now see this card coming together. So I'm just going to start placing all my bits and bobs together like that. So now, because I've used seam binding ribbon, it's created some height, so I want to keep some of that height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Stampin' Up dimensionals. Now just one layer of Stampin' Up wouldn't suit the height, so what I'm going to do, excuse the frog in my throat, is take that off, and then I'm going to put another layer directly on top of these, so it's a double layer foam, and it really lifts it up even more, the height, and it matches pretty much the depth of the seam binding ribbon because it's quite thick, and that's the same depth I want to stick to. Okay, so just placing it down gently like that. I'm going to adhere this down to the bottom right, and I'm going to use my glue dots. I pack as I go sometimes, and sometimes it's annoying. So I'm going to use probably about 3 glue dots, depending how well I want this to stick. So the glue dots are fairly sticky, and so I'd be fairly happy with just using the 3. Alright, and then 1 glue dot with my sentiment, just towards the end, and just letting that hang out just like that. Okay, and those little pearls are these little rosettes. I'm going to do one in the middle first, then do the outside like that. So this one, you can tell that rosette is just a slightly bigger, but just creates this image. Now I haven't sponged the edges on this card like I have this one with crumb cake, but I'm thinking I might just leave that, just this one more a clean card. So there's my cards for Thank God It's Friday. Something different. I hope you liked another way to use your boho blossom punch by creating a little tiny rosette. I'm used to creating the bigger ones with the 1 3/4 inch circle or the 1 1/4, but just to have little bubby ones as a feature on the cards, oh, it's just so pretty. So I hope you like my tutorial. Don't forget to like me on Facebook and on my blog if you want to see the project recipes. Alright, well have a lovely weekend. Bye.